Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the A. Smith Gallery story reading number 2. So we have a list of 9 people. We're going to read their stories. And let's talk a little bit about Franklin first and about the whole idea of the story.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for trusting me to do this. And I hope I didn't disappoint or embarrass.
Not at all.
I get asked a lot about where Franklin or where the concept of the stories came from, and I'm a big fan of Eduardo Galeano. I don't know if y'all are familiar with his work. He's a Uruguayan writer, and he would do these little vignettes, and they were typically historical, and they'd be maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs. And then Richard Brautigan also is a big favorite of mine. He also did these little vignette type stories. And then a guy named Edward Lee Masters wrote a book called the Spoon River Anthology. And I think that was the first time that I really keyed into this concept. You know, I think he made up the concept. I don't think there was actually a cemetery, but his premise was that he went to a cemetery and took the names off the cemetery and then wrote little stories or vignettes about the people in the cemetery. So that's where that come from. And Franklin Cincinnatus comes from, I used to participate on a political blog and they kicked me off. And so I went back the following day as Franklin Cincinnatus. So that's the why of that. So I also get asked for a biography. And so here goes. I keep getting asked what I know about Franklin Cincinnatus. This is the best info I've found. It was in the back of a copy of the Paris Review that was on the failing coffee table in the office where I get my oil changed. Franklin was born fully formed, both physically and cognitively. This frightened everyone in town, especially his parents. They dropped him off at the local fire station sometime around 3 or 3:30 a.m. the morning they left town, never to return, leaving no forwarding address. The very liberal local librarian rode her bicycle to the fire station, loaded the unusual child into the basket on the handlebars, and returned smiling rapidly back to the library. She named him Franklin Cincinnatus after her favorite men, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Lucius Quinticus Cincinnatus. He read most of In Watermelon Sugar that first night. It is conjectured that he lives in a little stone house somewhere in central Texas with 3 cats, some kind of bird, a very happy woman, and a pistol that he accidentally dropped in the toilet when he was drunk one Easter. The pistol has since rusted useless. It sits next to a framed photograph of the librarian.
Now you know.
So which of that is you, Kevin?
Yeah, there's a little bit of me in all of
I
that.
thought so.
Well, we decided to do this call for entry story because, I mean, we both like images with narratives. So that was kind of a good way to bring all this together with Franklin, who's going to eventually publish a book, right?
I'm working on a book right now with Jace Graff. Y'all know Jace? Anybody work with Jace? Yeah. Okay. What next?
You ready to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was wondering why I was having a hard time reading that. I didn't have my glasses on.
Okay, Kevin. So first up is Fran. Do you want to pull up the screen share and we'll look at her image? So Fran Forman.
Oh, I get this here.
Oh, wait a minute. He's all confused.
I'm confused now.
Okay.
Here we go. And then let me come back here. Hold on a second. Let's come back over here. Now, we're very professional. Okay. Here.
Like I said, it makes me feel like I'm at home.
Yeah. They don't make screen share easy.
No. I think should be able to do it now.
Almost.
There we go. We lost
you
it.
lost them.
Well,
Kevin, that's not good.
let's stop it and try it again.
Hang on.
There we go. They're back. Oh, I lost it again. So one more time. Okay.
Okay. Hey.
There we go.
There we go. All right. Everybody see that?
Yes. Love that.
Okay, so Fran Forman. Tell us
Yes,
who you are, Fran Forman.
everything I do is a photo montage, and this, in fact, is an image that was created a couple years ago in various different places. I recognize the room because it's here on Cape Cod, and the mirror was shot in an old house, also in Cape Cod. The young woman in the mirror and looking out the window was also shot on Cape Cod, but yet at a completely different location. The background is a landscape that I took, and I can't remember where. And the Harlequin is also a composite from several different images, but the body is from a painting. And I photographed the painting, and unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the painter, but the painting is hung in Sarasota, Florida at the Ringling Museum, which I recommend everybody go to at some point in their lives. It's a fabulous museum. So it's a photo collage. The man is a harlequin, and the woman who's looking at it, I'm not sure you can see here, but her face is actually in different positions. She's looking directly out the window, but the mirror image is looking at her. So it's a little bit ambiguous, as all my pictures are. All of my images are visual narratives, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to respond to this call for entry. I submitted several, not sure why you guys picked this one, but I'm glad you did. And I loved what you wrote, Kevin. It was incredible. I mean, it was just a perfect text. So I am going to allow Kevin to do the reading. I don't have the text in front of me anyway, so I'm very happy for you to take it from here. And I'm also happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Well, how do you do this? How do you do this?
Oh, that.
How do you do this?
That question.
A form of magic.
I've been doing photo montage since the early 1990s, which I'm beginning to think is almost as old as I am. But I accumulate a lot of images. I photograph things that I find interesting, and I archive them. I keep them in various different folders. And then from time to time, I go through my folders and I look at things that I feel have relationships to each other. And it's always kind of intuitive and organic. I wanted to work with a harlequin figure. I don't know, I can't remember honestly where I started in this, but I use a lot of software, primarily Adobe Photoshop, but I use a couple other pieces of software too. And I use that to do the compositing. So these are all composites. And actually this image has fewer pieces, fewer elements than I usually work with. And I have to admit that most recently I've gotten very involved in AI, which I'm using also for image collection and creation. And for me, it actually works seamlessly because I've been doing photo compositing so long that using AI, I find, is just another tool, not to create a full image, but to actually to access various different objects. I get ideas from it. It's just another tool in my toolbox. But this one was done a couple of years ago before I started using AI, and this is just strictly a photo montage.
And isn't there a panel discussion with you this weekend?
Yes, on Saturday through Los Angeles Center of Photography, I'll be talking about the relationship between photography and AI. And I have to say, the work that I create using AI, I don't call photographs, and that's a conversation, Kevin, you and I have had just a little bit, but I think continues to be had because it's just a hybrid. It's a new form of image making, and I've always been interested in the image more than the technology. I don't care what the process is. As you know, when I juror, I never care what the process is. To me, it's all about the image. So anyway, I'll be talking about that on Saturday, along with some other people.
Yep, we'll be there.
Good. Oh, great. Ask good
Okay.
questions. Ask easy questions.
Thanks, Fran. Okay, here goes. My God, she thought, he's done it again. Stephanie stood back from the window, hoping he could not see her. Her husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, sent the Harlequin the month before. He was back. Her husband imagined the Harlequin could somehow assuage her anger, save the marriage. The Harlequin had moved to Boston from the Italian city of Bergamo. He had become romantically entangled with a woman he had been sent to cheer and calm. Although he had a reputation as a seducer, he was grudgingly used as a last resort. Most men accepted the outcome of his exploits, whether to their advantage or not. Of course, some didn't. Stephanie imagined that the time spent with the Harlequin, however pleasant and pleasurable, was a lark, a ripe fruit thrown at her husband. She never imagined he would return. She wasn't aware that this time he was there on his own accord. The Harlequin believed he was feeling something like infatuation, possibly love. Stephanie wanted to run out into the yard, hurl obscenities, scream as if at her husband, but it was not her husband. She knew if she ran out into the yard, she could not control what would happen. She could lose control. She knew there was no future with a Harlequin, but did it really matter? From A Harlequin Romance by Franklin Cincinnatus.
All right, Kevin. You want to admit, Sally?
Okay, hold on.
Okay, we got another person joining it. Almost just in time. Where is she gonna pop up? Are you there, Sally?
Yeah, I just got in. Thanks.
Okay,
Sorry.
good deal. Good to see you. We've already done the first one, and we're gonna go on and move to the second one, and I don't think Elizabeth's here. Elizabeth Bailey, you're not there, are you?
Sally.
Yeah.
Hi, Chapman.
Okay, so next we have Elizabeth Bailey. You want to go to the next
Hi,
image?
Lawrence.
Hi, Sally. There's,
We can move this over.
I really know a lot of people.
Where is it? Where's the arrow? There it is.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So this is Elizabeth Bailey. And since she was supposed to be here, I do have no bio on her. So will you want to just read the
Yeah.
story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Daphne, a name she chose for herself, lived in a family that wasn't hers. They had photographs and postcards and aunts and stories. Daphne had a single memory, a faceless woman carrying her. The sun bright, the woman speaking, but not known words. Daphne collected family memorabilia and ephemera, the stuff of others, found or purloined. Finding an anonymous family tree in a discarded magazine, she dreamed of one, wanted one, needed one, from A Family Tree by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Now this is such a stunning image.
It's a wonderful.
I just
picture.
really love this. You know, one reason Kevin picked a lot of the images that or all the images that he picked, because it stirred something. He knew he could write a story about it, right?
Mhm, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's,
So yeah,
that's
and this
exactly
this
right.
one was always there.
Yep.
Always.
You're right.
Yep. Okay. Next one.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have Sally Chapman. You were just in time, Sally. Okay, you want to change?
Yeah.
So this is Sally Chapman's image, and you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And then the image.
Well, I live in Lowell, Mass, and this series they're all done in cyanotype, and I was using kind of local statuary for the most part, and so this is a Confederate Union sailor, and so I was through Photoshop putting them into different locations and kind of creating new stories for them. And I love cosmos flowers. So
And you also hand color on these too, right?
yeah, the pink is as a pastels
Yeah.
is being used. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Well, I have to tell you, what's amazing about this image, it was the first story I wrote.
Oh, wow.
When I looked at this, the story just came to me fully formed. It was kind of little bit freaky.
Great.
Let's hear it. So Sally, do you want to read it or do you want Kevin to read it?
Oh, I'd like Kevin to read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or Franklin. Franklin's going to
You're
read it.
popular.
Okay.
We lost words. We had used them, abused them. They came at us from all directions. They lost their meaning. We could no longer recognize words when written. Fortunately, they retained their power in speech. We continued to cherish our books and other precious documents containing the written word. We dreamed and hoped for a day when they would carry meaning again. Printers and novelists and print reporters and editors and many others became obsolete. Memory and art became necessary, important, from A Ticket to a Garden Party by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Great. Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
All right. So next we have Karla Bernstein.
Yep.
See here, Karla.
Yeah.
Tell us who you are. And we're going to change images. Kevin. Yeah.
Okay. So I live in Connecticut and I was doing straight photography for a long time and got into doing images such as the first person who spoke, where you compile and composite different pieces of work. So the dog and the boat was a Halloween exhibit that they have in our town, that people on Main Street put out these crazy scenarios of different things. And so he had this dog in a boat, and there were some skeletons in there, but I took them out. And so I took the picture and I was working with compositing, and I thought, this is really a neat thing. Let me think of a way to use it. So the moon and the water and the sky are my photos. The dog, I tried to give him an oar, but it didn't look quite right. So he's got a stick.
That's great.
And so the stick is mine, but the dog is not. And so I put it together, and it seemed like to me Pequod was a good name. So I used that. I have used this image with some changes on a more serious project that I was doing, but this one I thought was whimsical enough to give you some meat to work with.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great image.
Thanks.
I love this image.
Mm.
So mysterious. I have
Yeah.
a thing for dogs too, but really it's very, very wonderful.
Thank you.
An interesting thing about this image is that part of it's based on a true story. A friend of mine, his dad was an actor. He was raised in Hollywood or outside of Los Angeles. And well, I won't divulge it now, but we'll talk about that later. But for some reason, I can't figure that out either. It just hit me, and that immediately came into my head. And I don't really see the correlation, but here we go. So,
Okay, Franklin.
do you want me to read it?
Sure.
I would love for you to read it if you'd like.
No,
to.
no, I don't have it in front of me either.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna
That's
turn
gonna
my
be
mouth.
the excuse.
The Pequod Bar and Grill was not ordinary. If one is of the literary sort, you will recognize the unavoidable allusions to disaster and complicated personalities. Many bartenders become hyper alert after about midnight. Alcohol is the juice that can engender a carnival or sloppy pugilism. Bartenders must love self-harming or occasionally boring, but generally entertaining characters, or be socially disconnectedly masochistic closet introverts, schlepping the elixir that builds their discomfort. The Pequod Bar, like its namesake, was home to some very complicated individuals. Where the idea for a canine skeleton lifeboat came from is debatable. Cyril, the owner, took credit for it, but Dickie, a regular and a retired English professor at the local junior college, is generally accepted as the instigator and mastermind. Whether one liked it or not, it had to be recognized as a wonderful, technically perfect executed bit of polystyrene and epoxy commercial sculpture. The creator was a kid from the Valley. He traded Cyril the work for $200, unlimited draft beer, and Thursday night mulligan stew. Dan Stone, not his real name, was an aspiring actor. He was a regular. Cyril made him leave the bar before he was ready on several occasions. He couldn't hold his liquor as well as he presumed he could. He insisted on buying rounds of tequila or Jägermeister shots for whomever was seated at the bar. Dan, angry, decided to change locations and started frequenting another bar on the strip. That's when the rumors started circulating about the skeleton on the Pequod Bar and Grill signage belonging to the cherished canine or one or another deceased movie star. To buttress the rumors, Dan would drunkenly repeat night after night the story of Trigger, Roy Rogers' horse, ending up in the abattoir of an unscrupulous butcher. As life is wont to do, it both complicates and surprises. A frustrated screenwriter accepted Dan's shot of Jägermeister and tales of canine skeletons and Roy Rogers' horse from the Pequod Bar and Grill by Franklin Cincinnatus.
You know, the Pequod was the ship that Captain
Yeah.
A had. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Well, the true part about this story is that Trigger actually was the taxidermist in Hollywood that taxidermied Trigger sold Trigger's meat to a local butcher who in turn sold it to the public.
Little known
And
story.
that's absolutely true. And the reason I know this because I looked it up, but a buddy of mine lived real close to Roy Rogers and knew his kids. So there's that.
There's that. Okay. Okay, next we have Ron Butler. Are you there, Ron
Right,
Butler?
I am here.
Yeah, I thought you were.
Let's change the picture.
Yep, change picture.
This is a great one, Ron. That's a
Thank
great
you.
shot. Yeah.
So, yeah, this was an idea I had after listening to a song by PJ Harvey called Pocket Knife. And the lyrics convey a story of a young girl who still wants to stay a tomboy, but she's being forced to get married.
Your last image.
And she doesn't want to give up her pocket knife or running through the woods barefoot, playing. And so she approaches her mother, and asks her, Mom, put your needle down, stop knitting. Tell me how it felt when you were young. And so in this, I'm trying to capture that moment where the mother remembers the moment where something was decided for her. She didn't actually decide. And, this is being passed along generationally. The young girl is being asked to get married, and she's not the one deciding this. So this was done on a wet plate collodion. It's on aluminum. I think we took 2 shots, and this is the one that took. So it's about a 30-second exposure.
Wow.
Very, very
A
nice.
great image.
Yeah.
Love it. Wonderful.
Incredible.
So Franklin?
Well, do you want to read it, Ron?
Well, I don't have it in front of me. I do have it on the side of me. But I'd like to hear you read it.
Okay. All right. And also thank your model for reaching out to me. She was
Oh, did
very
she?
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. she
We've worked
did.
together a lot, and she's
Yeah.
always game for anything I can think of.
Yeah,
So,
she's wonderful.
That's cool.
yeah, she's great. Her name is Cheryl Esposito, by the way.
Right. Okay. The great composer of Verissimo operas, Giacomo Antonio Domenico Michele Secondo Maria Puccini, was known for his works based on the possibilities of real life, Verissimo, and not the well-worn trifles of the gods. Puccini, after almost losing his life in an automobile accident in 1903 caused by his chauffeur, demanded of life all that life offered, including the pleasures of the flesh. Numerous trysts and affairs ensued. The garden of his amorous adventures was not a barren plain. His orchard produced occasional fruit. Fonquilla Manfredi Calinanan was born in a narrow, poorly designed 3-story beige brick building in the Kips Bay neighborhood of New York City. On the second floor lived a Jewish bachelor who had some success in the movies, playing American Indians. He had the noble, handsome profile of many of the Plains Indian chiefs. He kept a photograph of Wolf Robe of the Cheyenne on his living room wall. When visitors would come to his rooms, he would stand next to it and grin. The third floor was owned by a wealthy Texas rancher that hid his eastern roots. He rented the place out. Tenants changed quite frequently. Vanquilla's grandfather built the building in 1919 in place of one that had simply fallen. He returned home from serving in France a wealthy man. He refused to say how, but he was able to secure a large supply of absinthe due to its having been recently banned in France and the Netherlands. He sold it to the miserable doughboys. Vanquilla's father lived the rest of his life on the first floor of the building. She imagined she would too. Vanquilla, her name meaning maiden in Italian, had a beautiful soprano voice. She sang in a couple of local rock bands, but was inexplicably drawn to opera. One night, after singing some Fleetwood Mac covers with the Frail Lieutenants, one of her bands, she had a dream that she was singing an aria about a woman that discovers she is illegitimate and vows to kill with knitting needles. It was not clear who she was going to kill. Her mother had died years before. The name Manfredi, her mother's maiden name, appears in biographies of the great Puccini. Vanquilla learned of this during a brief romantic tryst with the young composer, and that an early Puccini opera was titled La Vanquilla del West. They eventually became friends and collaborators, and the contemporary opera La Vanquilla's Revenge opened to rave reviews, From the Maiden's Revenge by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Good one.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there truly was an opera titled La Vanquilla del West. So.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So next we have Philip. Say his last name for me.
Garrett.
Garrett.
Yeah.
And Philip's not here. I really wish he were, because he is an actor and he was going to read his piece. He's a Shakespearean actor and he was going to read it. So I think we're really missing that, darn it.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to read it for us.
Okay.
This is, excuse me, is this a self-portrait?
It is.
Yes, that is
It
him.
is.
That is him.
It is.
Or was him?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably why he's not here today.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could explain things. Okay, Kevin.
Okay. As You Like It croutons could not be kept on Dogberry and Perdita gourmet grocery shelves. They were preferred by the local foodies, chefs, and restaurateurs that featured Caesar salads. The secret of their uniqueness was never discovered. They were crushed, soaked, burnt, looked at under microscopes, dropped in acids, x-rays, sprayed with solvents, and fed to the anxious. No secret ingredient was found. Andrew Feldspar, the owner and founder of As You Like It croutons, was asked over and over on television, the radio, and in print to divulge the secret. He took it to his grave. From The Magic Toaster by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Oh, Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay. So next we have Daphne Schnitzer, and she's not here either. You want to switch to the next image?
Yep.
Daphne lives in Tel Aviv, Israel, and it's midnight there, so that kind of explains why she's not there here. She's there. She wrote a little piece about her image, about what she's up to there. I'm gonna let Kevin read that. You can start right there.
The perch crow image marks my first foray into digiscoping with a short refractor from my window during COVID. And we're not really sure what digiscoping means. Does anybody know? I think it has something to do with putting a camera through a telescope.
Yeah.
I still enjoy it occasionally as a break from planetary observing and imagining. Hooded crows are also a longtime favorite with me. Many of my film landscapes include them, so of course the little scope was bound to find them eventually at dawn and dusk, their favorite hours of the day. I'm currently trying to rekindle my paper and film pinhole photography after a digital pinhole period. As always, the riverbank and the sea beckon at the blue hour. I did notice that most of the white cranes seem to have been replaced by hooded crows there too. Daphne. This is another one of those inexplicable images. This because basically this story just immediately came to me, and I look at this now thinking, where did that come from?
I think that about a lot of your stories.
Yeah. Okay. Damn, did you get what he said? Asked Special Agent Phillips. No, too much static, said Special Agent D'Amico, seated in front of a bank of electronics with a large headphone over one ear. Placing a pair of binoculars on the windowsill. There's a stinking seagull attacking the damn antenna. What the hell's up with that? Said Special Agent Phillips. Want me to go outside and throw something at it? Said Special Agent D'Amico. No, they could make you. Can you hear anything? Said Special Agent Phillips. Yeah, but it's garbled and breaking up, said Special Agent D'Amico. Thank you. Think you can get something from the recording? Asked Special Agent Phillips. Maybe, said Special Agent D'Amico. Special Agent Phillips picked up the binoculars and looked out the window again. Rock, you're not going to believe this. Big Stefano just walked out. He's throwing bread up to the gulls. Do we know that baby Stefano is in there? Said Special Agent Phillips. From Listening by Franklin Cincinnatus.
That's my favorite.
I must
Okay.
have watched The Sopranos the night before.
Is that what it was? I was thinking more about Agent 99, whatever that was.
Get smart.
Yeah,
Smart.
yeah. Okay. Next we have Lawrence Manning with a crow image. So tell us about your.
Well, I remember when this image was made, and I had decided to venture into the world of self-portraiture and took a class from Donna Garcia. And as always, typically for me, for classes, I come in, I'm unfamiliar with what I'm getting into, and then realize it's challenging. And I've never been comfortable having myself photographed. I really love being on the other side of the camera, and I'm the superhero empowered guy behind the camera. So this was a nice stretch for me to at least put my silhouette or something in an image. And the images then began to become this study that I was doing of a murder in my town, Nampa, Idaho. It became less about the murder and their crows and ethereal pictures of them on lines, and became more like, well, it's this ambiguity going. Here I am pondering, is, you know, how you can feel somebody behind your back and some uncomfortable energy. So is the crow landing there to, you know, console me or remove some of my anxiety? And over time, I took a nice, wonderful class I don't know, 2 years ago from Fran Forman. So I became really fascinated with collaging work. And I can tell you it's really challenging, and how she does her magic is amazing. But I began to use simple things like where a crow would land, but here it is a landscape or an atmosphere that seems that it's being impacted. There's something wrong. There's these bolts of light and energy. So it should lead to obviously to a lot of questioning what's going on, but some discomfort, as well as maybe some hope in my pondering what's going on in the aesthetics of this work and my existential place in the work. And it's been a good shift for me. And now it keeps going farther about me and so on. So it's been an interesting journey for a project.
Nice image, Lawrence. That's a really
Yeah,
nice
that's a great
image.
image.
Really, really nice image.
And also, you need to, for those that don't know, a murder is a group of crows. So when he referred to a murder earlier, he wasn't talking about a murder.
We think.
But I always let people be confused. I say I'm investigating a murder, and they think, "Oh, that's really interesting. What do you do for a living?" You know. So, and I want to say that I do have a copy of the story in front of me, unlike the others. But I want you to read it, Kevin.
You sure?
You do such a good job.
I would prefer that you read it, but I'm not going to put you on the spot.
It feels more like then we're connecting. I produced the image, and now it's your turn. I
All
mean,
right.
it's just for me. Maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe
No,
I like your voice. I like it.
It's good. Okay. On the third day, we came upon a great is this right? Yeah. On a third day, we came upon a great and weathered trough of ripe figs. They looked of sumptuous leather, sensuous browns and umbers in the green of old patinaed copper. We hesitated then. The writer could only start, he could not finish. As a young man with a powdered wig, I respected him. Once he shed the wig, I thought differently, confused. Are the artifices of our vanity, our youth, silly, necessary? Do we deny ourselves an important experience if we defer to propriety or normalcy? He sought relief in bathing, but it helped only temporarily. Crystals cut him, incense made him sneeze, rubbing the brass bowl gave him blisters. He understood the counsel of the birds. He couldn't say why he ignored them. He eventually chose to listen. From The Council of Crows by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, last but not least, Marcy Tilton. Hi.
Hi, okay.
Maybe.
I'm relatively new to photography and I am blown away by this work of you, all of you. So I do a lot of different kinds of photography, but I love street photography. So this took place in the Bourdelle Museum of Sculpture in Paris, in Bourdelle's actual studio. And they had an exhibition of couture garments. This happens to be Rei Kawakubo, who's a favorite of mine. I'm a textile person as well. I walked into the room and this man was there. I about broke my neck to get this picture, which just seemed so funny. I love it when I can make myself laugh about anything, but this made me laugh. I live in Southwest Oregon in the country.
It's a great, I mean, it's amazing because I mean, you know, these dresses have that hump on the back. And then, I mean, the guy looks like Quasimodo. I mean, I saw this and it's like,
Yeah.
the work's already done
Yeah,
for you.
he beelined right to this image.
Do you know anything about why these dresses are hung that way? Are they designed specifically for hunchbacks?
No, so Rei Kawakubo is a brilliant Japanese designer. She's probably well into her 70s now. She's iconoclastic. She's inventive. She did a whole series of her collection like this one year, and instead of showing it in a fashion show, they showed it in Paris for the world to look at. This was later on. So she's making a statement here rather. I don't know why she does this, because she can. And, you know, he is clearly flummoxed.
Right.
So am I.
Okay,
Okay, Kevin, will you read it? Because I don't have it in front of me.
sure, I'd be glad to. Salvatore Quasimodo was the great grandson of the ill-formed, good-hearted bell ringer of 15th century Paris. The story, thought a fiction, was indeed true. The Quasimodos flourished around the environs of Notre Dame for centuries, even prospering during the Revolution. Falling on hard times once the Nazis took Paris, Salvatore's father, Apollinaire Quasimodo, was able to spirit the family away to the free French town of Toulon on the Mediterranean coast. Although the war raged, Salvatore had a brief, idyllic Toulon childhood, roaming the beaches, playing in the fountains at the Provencal market, trekking to the fish markets of La Morion to buy dinner for the family, climbing Mount Ferron with his playmates and running errands for Father Reynaud, the rector of the Toulon Cathedral. His family still maintained recognition as devout servants of the church. Eventually, the Germans in the war came to Toulon. Though only 15, Salvatore joined the resistance. The Allies bombed the port city, causing many casualties. Toulon was liberated by the Free French forces in 1944. At the end of the war, Salvatore, scarred and shaken by his experiences, moved back to Paris and with his family and entered seminary. Father Quasimodo was restless as a priest. In his mid-30s, he requested a leave of absence to attend the Sorbonne to study art. His request granted, he graduated in 3 years with a fine art degree in sculpture. Salvatore immersed himself in the burgeoning avant-garde movement of the 1960s. He became known and had the most success with his soft sculpture, commenting on Parisian couture from the Quasimodos, A History by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Absolutely fabulous.
These are great.
That was great, Franklin.
Thank you.
These are fabulous.
Thanks, Kevin.
Well, thank all of y'all for letting me do this. I mean,
Oh, we loved it. This was so fun.
It was
it's
a
an
great
honor.
idea.
It's an absolute honor.
Oh, I love it.
Well, thank you all for being
It
here. We
gives
really
you a
appreciate
glimpse into your mind.
It's
it.
I don't know that that's safe or good.
Kevin, can you tell us what your forthcoming book is about? The one you're doing with Jace?
It's just going to be a compilation of the Franklin Cincinnatus story.
Great.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah. You're part of the impetus for this, years ago, trying to get me to suggesting that I do that. So
Yeah. Well,
thank
I'm
you. Thank
glad
you,
you're
Fran.
doing it. I'm really glad.
No,
Yeah.
I'm very happy to do this. I was very excited to see the call and, know that there was going to be writings associated with it. It's a great way to, I guess, just hear somebody else's view of your work, in a very different way than usually comes through. Yeah.
It was
Well,
good to get away from the narrative that I had,
Yeah.
know,
For sure. Yeah.
Was it different?
very different. And I love it, and
Yeah.
the model loves it too. So,
she was
so
very
the
generous.
model actually contacted Kevin.
yeah,
Yes, she was
And
wonderful.
that must have been fascinating to have that happen.
It was great. It was fantastic.
You talked about the concept behind the image, or you talked about who she is, or all the above?
Basically she just thanked me for the story. And
Oh, really?
yeah, it was great.
That's awesome.
I think Kevin and everyone is on to something really important here. As far as creative collaboration, I mean, when I looked at the images and then read the story, I just had like a frisson, a charge of recognition that it's very powerful. I think this is a book. This concept.
Oh,
Well, actually, Fran, we were sitting at dinner one night years ago, and Fran suggested that. She said, "Why don't you get photographers, write the stories and give the stories to photographers and have them create images around the story?" Well, this is the other way around, but it's basically the same concept.
Well, I sort of did that with my last book. Shout out to my last book, which is called The Rest Between Two Notes. So what I did was allow anybody who wanted to write some kind of a statement connected to the image. It was kind of reverse of what I had said to you initially. So here I presented the images to people, and they wrote either poems or short stories or haikus or essays based on their inspiration, how they were
Right.
inspired by the particular image.
Right.
And it was really successful because I think it's a much more interesting way to look at an image, because basically when you're creating art, you're having a conversation with the viewer, and you want that conversation to be out there in the public. So that's what you're doing here, and that's what I did in my book. I think people should be doing it much more often, actually.
Well, the other thing that's really fascinating about this is, having the gallery and talking to so many people, as they're looking at an exhibition, you discover that everybody has a different opinion or sees images in a different way. No, you almost rarely find two people that see exactly the same thing in the photograph.
Right.
And I
People
think
bring
that's
their
one,
own
that's one
personal-
aspect of this concept that's really cool.
There
It
was,
is.
there was a project on Martha's Vineyard that a group, all the different medias of the various artists, and Allison Shaw, who's a photographer, and Carly Simon, and various artists all responded. They started and it went down the line like a telephone chain, but with whatever their format was or media was. So Allison would do photography, Carly Simon would do a song to that, somebody would do poetry with that. It's a great way to do things.
Mm.
This concept was actually started in the 1920s in the Surrealist movement, where an artist would draw on a piece of paper and fold the paper. And then another artist would come along, he'd hand it to a different artist, and he would draw his own little drawing, and so on. It would go down the line. And then when you opened it up, you get this incredibly interesting, complex combination of images. And it's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah,
I
it's a
love the
response.
idea.
It's a call and
Call
response.
and
Right,
response.
that's
It's-
right. That's
It-
exactly right. Yeah.
So we should do this call for entry again.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
I'm having a hard time with him. It's
Yeah,
hard.
it seems like the writing took more time than
Yeah.
the
We
jurying.
actually, we went away.
Well, I couldn't, I was trying to do it here in the gallery or at the house, and I just couldn't get anywhere
Yeah.
with it. So I said, we got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So we went to a little town on the coast, Rockport, and we stayed there for 5 days. And I wrote all of them down there. Yeah.
Almost. all.
Wow.
Almost all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, come up to Cape Cod. You can do it up here
I'd love
Yeah.
to. I'd love to. But it was a
anytime.
joy. I enjoyed every minute of it. It was wonderful.
That's great.
So thank y'all again.
Thank you. Thanks
Sure,
for the
thanks.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Nice to see all of you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah,
Meet everyone.
yeah, it was great.
It's great.
Great work, you guys.
Fabulous.
Great seeing everybody, and we'll do it again.
Okay. Take
Okay,
care.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.